Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be continuing our series on Is This Spirit for You? This time, focusing on Fractured Days Split the Sky. Looking at the setup, we're going to have 3 presents on our starting board, 1 in the lowest number land with 1 Dahan, and 2 in the highest number land without Dahan. You're going to deal 4 minors and 4 majors face up as your initial Days That Never Were. That is going to be part of your special role. And then if you're in a 1 or 2 player game, those numbers of 4 will actually be increased to 6. If you're in a 1 player game, you're going to gain 1 time. Playstyle states, excellent at support and sweeping indirect effects, but starts off very limited otherwise. Several of the unique powers need setup to use well. It's entirely possible 1 or 2 of them may see no play in a given game. Well, I mean, this bottom part is actually very common for most spirits. It has a hard time getting lots of presence on the board. This can make targeting tricky and may be quite dangerous if lighted island effects occur. The complexity is very high complex. I believe Fractured is, well, it's definitely one of the hardest spirits in the game outside of Finder. Those are your 2 most complicated. And the summary powers, we're going to have very low offense, a little bit of control, very low fear, so basically no offense, no fear, lots of defense, and the most utility in the entire game. Flipping the spirit board over here, we have 2 special rules. The first special rule talks about time and how to use time. Whenever you have an ability that spends time, it's going to take the time that's on your spirit board and it's going to put it back on the tracks here. Whenever you gain time by either grabbing presents from your tracks or you gain time from the board. And that's mainly from your G1, G2, or G1, G3, and your G2. Your Days That Never Were, that's something that we talked about during setup. That's essentially a bunch of cards that you get to start the game with. Now, in this game, I've set up a 3-board game, so we're only dealt 4 cards. We're dealt 4 majors and 4 minors, and as always, we drew some very overpowered cards. Essentially, all that the Days That Never Were is they're cards that you can build a plan around. So looking at these cards, we know Dream and Unrelenting are busted, and same with Bats and Cold Isolation. They're not busted, but they're perfect element for us, or very close to perfect element, and that's really important. Whenever you gain a power card, one of those cards goes into your hand, and the other card goes into your days. Looking at our growth options, I would tell you that we're a 0-1-1, but really Fractured doesn't really play like that. It's just very different than the other spirits. You have a reclaim option that gives you air, and then it allows you to gain 2 time. Once again, whenever you're gaining time, the presence will come off your tracks and then come on your spirit board. Whenever you spend time, it'll go back onto the tracks. Your G2 is going to give you a moon, power card gain. You're going to place a presence on the island, and then 2 times you get to either choose to gain a time or +2 card plays. So you either can get a total of +2 time or +4 card plays, or you can mix and match depending on what you would like. A lot of times with this growth option, I'll choose 1 time and then +2 card plays, because if you have your 3 card plays, you'll have 3 +2, so you'll have 5 card plays, which is pretty strong. Looking at your G3, you gain a sun, move a presence. You then get to gain a power card from your Days That Never Were. That's the whole point of having that special role. So you get to grab one of the cards over here. Important to point out, if you gain a major from the days, that means you have to forget a major over here. And then 3 times, you get to choose to either gain a time or gain 2 energy. So you can either choose to gain all of the time and get +3 time. You can choose to get +6 energy instead, or you can mix and match. A lot of times I'll gain 2 time and then I'll gain 2 energy. That's mainly what ends up happening, but there are plenty of builds, like specifically with how this is set up. You have a build where you could actually do G3 turn 1, gain a time, and then gain 2 energy. And then you'll have 4 energy, grabbing UG, or getting poor time sideways, and then play UG. That's a build that I'll do if I have UG in the days. And usually I do that if it's a multiplayer game. I'm not going to do a play like that solo. UG isn't that good on Fracture days. At least, I should say it's not that good. It's just compared to the other plays you could make. Grabbing Unrelenting on yourself tends to not be that good. Specifically, what are we playing? Habsburg. I would definitely grab like Cold Isolation and build a plan around that. Looking at our tracks here, we end at 3-3, which is pretty mediocre. Yeah, tracks not very good on the spirit. And we have a left innate and a right innate. The left innate is called Slip the Flow of Time. It's a fast power targeting any spirit, and then Fractured is allowed to repeat this effect any number of times, but it will cost 1 time per previous use. That means the first time I use this left innate, it's going to cost me 0 time. The second time it will cost me 1 time. The third time it will cost me 2 time. And the fourth time it will cost me 3 time. And it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to spend enough time to be able to play to do a repeat um, for a fifth time. Very rare. Once again, I'm going through what I mean by this. If I have 5 time here, actually, let's say I have 4 time. It looks like this. Now, if I were to use this innate, I can use it once. The next time I use it will cost me 1 time. And the next time it will cost me 2 time. And as you can see, I've basically exhausted my source of time. Now, if this is the following turn, all of this resets. So a lot of times, the value of using a slip for the third time in a turn tends to be medium, just because it's going to cost you 2 time, which is essentially 2 extra slips. So you could either get one extra slip this turn or an extra slip the next 2 turns, and it just depends. Now, what does the slip do? So you have to go from top to bottom. First is target spirit may resolve a slow power now. Second says target spirit may reclaim 1 power card from their discard or played cards, and they put it back in their hand. And the final threshold is target spirit may play a card. As you guys have probably seen in plenty of my videos, this innate allows you to reclaim a card that's in play. You have the second tier, and then the third tier lets you put it back on the board and use that card again. Very powerful with support effects, but just repeating cards in general. Very, very strong if you have the energy economy to sustain it. Looking at that right innate, we have Visions of the Shifting Future. It's a slow power targeting yourself. You get to look at the top card of either the Invader deck or the Event deck, and then return it, then shuffle the top 2 cards. This gives you knowledge of the top event or the top Invader card, and it gives you 50% chance of knowing what it is. And if you're wrong on that turn, then it will give you 100% on the following turn. So very strong. Now, if you have the second threshold here, you're able to put that card on the bottom of the deck. Important to point out, you're not able to put cards that are specifically placed during setup. So some examples would be like the Coastal card with Scotland. The Stage 3 card with Scotland is also specifically placed. Stuff like that. Looking at our uniques, we have 4 uniques. We'll look at the really bad ones first. We have Poor Time Sideways, 1 energy fast, Moon, Air, Water. It costs you 3 time. You then move one of your presents to a different land with your presents. On the board you moved from, you essentially get to skip all invader actions on that board, and then the board that you moved to, invader actions occur in extra time. This card is terrible. Essentially, it wants you to completely clear a board so that you can permanently skip that board and then double the actions on another board, or vice versa. So like you double the actions on the skipped or on the empty board so that you can skip actions over here. It's just, I don't like getting into strategy in these videos, but this is just a card you never want to play. Really, the biggest problem is it costs an energy in 3 time, and the setup is just really, really mediocre. Yeah, just not a good card. The past returns 0 cost Sun Moon. Cost to use is N time, and spirits jointly pay N energy. So in a 6-player game, this costs 6 energy and 6 time, and in a 1-player game, it only costs 1 and 1. You get to swap the top card of the Invader deck with an Invader with a card in the Invader discard that is within 1 Invader stage. So just to show you what that does, it looks like this. If I play the past returns this turn, I could grab this wetland and I can swap it with the top card of the Invader deck. So it allows me to go back 1 stage level. In low spirit count games, I actually find this effect to be very, very good. Well, I mean, it's a great effect. It's just in low spirit games, it's actually possible to play the card and use the effect. I'm talking 1, 2, and 3 spirit games. Once you get above 3 spirits, the cost of time, so like 4 time or 5 time or 6 time, is just not worth this very, very mediocre effect. Really, what they should have just done is just done the same thing they did over here and just made it cost 3 time. Because if it's 1 time, it's probably too good, but if it's at 5, 6 time, it's just a useless card. Now, the difference between pass returns and 4 time sideways is pass returns has that sun moon, which is the most important elements on fractured days, um, and it's 0 cost. So a lot of times you'll just play this card just so that you can hit your innates. Okay, so those are your 2 weak cards. Your 2 really strong cards. We have Absolute Stasis, which is going to cost a time, and once again, whenever you're paying time, it goes back to your tracks. And it says until the end of the slow phase, target land and everything in it cease to exist for all purposes, except checking victory and defeat conditions. So a good example of this would be it's essentially a skip that also isolates the land, that also makes it not exist, which is pretty awesome. When I say not exist, I mean it can't lose you the game. For instance, like if all of your presents are in that land, you won't be able to lose the game that way. You can't just use this in a specific cease to exist for all purposes of I believe. I'm trying to think. I don't think you can lose the game now that I think about it. But I've also never been in the situation where I had to play my absolute stasis on my land with my only presence. It's definitely an interesting rules question. But like for instance, if your last city is in that land, you can't absolute stasis and make it not exist and then win the game. Like you can't use this to get rid of your final few cities. Now, looking at your best card, and that's Blur the Arc of Years. Very strong card. It's a 1 energy fast. Sun, Moon, Air, 1 range. If no Dahan or invaders are present, you get to heal a Blight. If invaders are present, they build and then immediately ravage. If Dahan are present, add a Dahan, push 2 Dahan. And you may repeat this power card once by spending a time. So you could use it again. Very, very strong card as it enables a lot of combinations. It allows you to add and move Dahan fast. It's perfect element for you. It allows you to heal Blight, of course, and then you can also cause ravages in build actions, so you can kind of allow yourself to trade and get ahead. Just a very, very, very flexible card. Yeah, I mean, this is like half of Fractured's power is in this left innate, the other half is in Blur. So, okay, is this spirit for you? So Fractured Days is one of the toughest spirits to play in Spirit Island. Um, if you like big brain puzzles, this is the spirit to play. If you like puzzles that really make you think, because this is the spirit to play. Every game you play is going to be different with Fractured Days. There is no like, and this is one of the reasons why I'm having issues on putting together a good opening guide. And that's just because like every game I play is much different, and it's going to be very different based on what's over here, what the adversary is, and of course what spirits I'm playing with. Um, so yeah, this is a spirit that is so different every time you play. Um, Another thing, so this is a spirit that plays very well with minors and majors. You can do tons of different minors and major strategies. You're not really restricted on a type of build per se. Um, it's a spirit that gets the most out of abusing powerful combos. So repeating those really OP effects, like repeating Cast Down, repeating Rumbling Earthquake, or repeating Gifted Constancy, stuff like that is where Fractured really shines. Um, you're not gonna like this spirit if you rely on needing a clear path to victory. So like Behemoth is an example of a spirit that can just stomp, stomp, stomp and clear its way to victory by killing all the invaders. Fractured, you have to build that win condition, and it's very similar to Starlight, where you have to find a way to win the game. But unlike Starlight, where it's kind of there's a very set direction with what to do with Starlight, with Fractured, you're a little bit more. You have to think more outside the box. Like looking at these cards, right? I have Yuji and Dream, and these 2 cards are just terrible. I'll flip them up. So like, there's no clear victory condition here, which means we're gonna have to draft cards. And with everything else that's going on, this is going to be a tough game. And actually, with Habsburg Livestock, this is probably gonna be a very, very challenging matchup, just how everything is set up. So overall, I mean, I love Fracture. This is probably one of my favorite spirits in the game, and I highly recommend giving this spirit a try. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.